yourself off mute. Hello everyone and welcome to our Monday night call. My name's Emma O'Reilly and I'm so excited to be the host for tonight's call. I've got two amazing people that are very close to my heart speaking for you all tonight. They're all the way in the good old New Zealand, and tonight they're going to be presenting for us about their Māori culture, but also their journey and how being connected within themselves with their roots and how it's gone from being from a young age to where they are now as adulthood and with their own children. So our guest speakers tonight are Darrio and Nikki Penetito-Hemara. Got it right? Yeah. Trying to do pronunciation correctly. So they're husband and wife combo they've got 4 beautiful children. Brooklyn, who is 14, Kimiora, who is 7, Piata, who is 2, and Koianake, who is 7 months old. They're both connected. I'm just reading their bio. It's very long, but I want to read it out because they're amazing, and what they do in their field is only shows in their bio, and once you hear them talk, you'll understand what I'm saying. So both very connected with their Māori roots and culture. Darrio going to a fully immersion Māori school his whole life, so they might speak a little bit Māori, but school with Māori is kura. And Nikki, she went to a mainstream school, but however she was involved with Kapa Haka throughout her whole high school schooling life. Nikki completed her studies at university, then became a lecturer, and further on has just completed her master's in physical education, focusing on the use of haka in sport. So I'm pretty sure everyone on this would know what haka is. I feel like everyone around the world knows what haka is through the All Blacks. So Nikki kind of studied and went really into depth with that, which was amazing. She actually has a book published about it too. Darrio studied a Bachelor of Sport and now works for Toi Tangata. Is that how you say it? Cool. An organisation that focuses on Māori approaches to physical activity and nutrition. Darrio's specific passion is the initiative of, okay, can you say that for me, Dar?
It's called He Pi Ka Rere.
Which is developed to connect their traditional narratives to forms of movement and nutrition for under 5s. And Dar actually has constructed a whole program around this and has put it out to kohangas, which is like daycares in New Zealand, which is pretty epic. Is it Kori?
Kori.
Yeah, Kori means to move, wriggle, or to play. It personifies people who are active, vibrant, and energetic. It embodies movement into action, which they like to collaborate with those willing to do things a little bit different to advance kaupapa of value to Māori. Korea also represents a movement, a space of influence or inspiration, one that values indigenous knowledge and celebrates our Māori identity. A celebration through life, through movement and its many expressions is their jam, which they prioritise Māori ways of understanding and interpreting the world. So our sweet spot combines their love for playing with sport, physical education, well-being, and indigenuity to form the magic which is called kore. So I'm going to be quiet now, and I feel like you're going to hear some amazing magic about not just the Māori culture, but also what these two are doing in and around their passion. All right.
Thank you, Ems. We're just going to screen share, guys, and then we'll jump into a little bit.
Can you see that?
It's coming up.
Cool.
Okay.
No, Kapa. First of all, I'm going to start off with a little something, and I'll do an explanation of what we're actually jumping into shortly. So let me just dip into this. Tutawa mai runga, tutawa mai raro, tutawa mai roto, tutawa mai waho, kia taua te Māori tū, kia taua te Māori ora ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. So what I just started off was a bit of a taku that sort of shares a little bit about coming forth from above, below, and within, so that the environment that we are in allows us to flourish. So a little bit around our concept within Te Ao Māori, or the Māori worldview, is that a lot of our culture and our protocols are driven through our connection to the environment, and its connection to us as being. So we sort of wanted to kick it off with that before we jumped into our kōrero and explain a little bit about ourselves. So I'll pass it on to Nikki now.
Kapa. We've already realised that we've 100% taken for granted that some of the Māori terms that we're going to use are probably going to be really foreign. So apologies in advance for that. But chat
in the chat we can respond to those if you guys want to ask anything.
But to stay true to the kaupapa, or the topic or the theme of tonight, Te Ao Māori and the Māori worldview, bringing that into the wellbeing space, we want to be able to integrate Te Reo Māori. So forgive us if we're a little bit gone past, but just bring us back in. All right.
Just before you go any further, if you do have any questions, guys, just put in the chat or ask it afterwards. Okay, you go.
Kia ora, Ems. Kia ora, tēnā tātou e te whānau, kua tai mai nei raro i te maru o tēnei whare. Tuatahi ka mihi ki te kaihanga, ko ia te timatanga me te whakamutunga o ngā mea katoa. Ka mihi ki ranginui e tui honei, kia papatua nuku e tako tōnei. Me mihi atu ki a rātou, kua haere ki tua o te ārai, oki oki rā i tō moi ngā roa. Ka tika me mihi kingi tūheitia, me te whare kāhui āreki, rire hau pai mārere. Kia tātou ngā kānohi ora, kā mihi, kā mihi, kā mihi. E mihi ana ki ngā uri o te whenua nei. Ka huri te kei o te waka kōrero ki te kaupapa o tēnei pō. Nō reira, kia koutou te whānau, nei rā ku mihi mai oha kia koutou katoa. Right.
Kia ora, everybody. So just to give a bit of an explanation to that, in a lot of the protocols and the tikanga that we have within our space, mihi mihi kōrero is one of those things. So what Nikki has done is she's just set the platform for what our mihi to you that have all attended tonight, and also a mihi to, like I said, the environment and the realms that have helped us out. So we've actually made mention in this to all of the whānau and everybody, all of the different families and the different things that are happening to each of us all over the motu in terms of different parts of the world. So we made mention to those who have passed on, to those who we can see, touch and feel in person or via the internet. And so, yeah, we welcome all of you tonight to share a little bit about what we do within our own whare, our own home. But a special mention also was to our indigenous brothers and sisters in the land that you guys call Australia. So as Emma mentioned, we're from New Zealand. The original term for New Zealand is Aotearoa, which is the land of the long white cloud. And for us, that name in itself plays a really, really big part in the way that we view our whenua or our land. So yeah, just to set the scene, it was a bit of a mihi to get us started. But we'll jump into the next part. So that was our little fella. He was doing a bit of a karanga to use all too, to let him know that he's still here with us as well. But ko waio, so i te taho taku mama, my mum's side, ko maunga tautiri te maunga, ko waikato te awa, ko raungaiti te marae, ko ngati haua te iwi. So I make mention to my Waikato roots and the different parts that make up the person who I am today. So quite similarly to our brothers and sisters in Australia, that connection that we have to the environment and everything that comes before us is really, really important to us. So we make mention of the mountains, the rivers, and everything that's allowed our tupuna or our ancestors to flourish. Those are the things that we hold true to us. And so being from different parts of Aotearoa plays a really important role in us knowing our identity in each of these spaces. So on my dad's side, we are from Ngāpuhi, which is in Te Tai Tokiro, which is the upper north of the North Island. Waima is the awa that flows through there. So the words that you'll see on the screen there, they read ko wai o. I guess a literal version means who am I, but it also means the waters that I derive from. So that's why we make mention of the rivers in the awa, which are the rivers, repo, different lakes, roto, and all of those different parts of them, because those are the different pieces that create the puzzle that is me, Darrio Penetito-Hemara. So I'll pass you on to Nikki, and she can explain a little bit about herself.
Ai, ko ai ko maua te maunga, so ki te taua tōku papa, ko maua te maunga, ko tauranga te moana, ko Ngāti Ranginui te iwi. So on my father's mum's side, we hail from Tauranga. More importantly, Bethlehem, not the one that's in the Bible, but the other one that's in little old Aotearoa. And that's my marae at the top there, Wairua marae. Ki te tau tōku koro, ko kahurana ki te maunga, ko kahurana ki te marae. We hail from the East Coast, Ngāti Kahungunu. That's the middle marae there, Kahuranaki, and then the one at the bottom is Roimata marae, ki te tau tōku mama on my mother's side. We're Whakatohia, so we're from the Opotiki area. And I put these little dots there, you probably can't see them, but those are all the places that I whakapapa to or have a connection to the land, the awa, the maunga, the seas. Aye.
So I guess just to set the scene a little bit in this, I guess we started with that because those are all the things that make up the people who we are. So our ancestors made their way to Aotearoa and settled in different parts, and what they were able to do was create opportunities for themselves to flourish. And so from these strong connections in our ancestry, that's led the platform for us to be able to function the way that we function. So we always like to acknowledge those that have come before us, and those things that will still be here after we've gone. And so those are the things that we refer to as our awa and our maunga and our marae, because all of those things will continue to be here and continue to house us and protect us, and our generations who are yet to come through as well. So yeah, we'll move on with that. So we made mention of the whakapapa lines that have come before us, the ones that have come after us, our kōtiro, our young girls, and our little boy who Emma mentioned. So Brooklyn Rose Awhano Timu is the 14-year-old right bang smack in the middle with the bucket hat on. Kimiora, showing a bit of her character with some facials going on over there. She's a product of the full immersion Māori schools as well. Piata Wairoa is our little one that I'm holding over there, and she goes to Kohanga Reo. I'll explain a little bit more about that. And then our young fella just this last week had his first week at Kohanga Reo. So he's only 7 months, and he's already in a thriving environment where te reo, which is the Māori language, is everything that they hear when they go to those spaces. Okay, so ko waio again. So Darrio's journey. So the first, the top left icon, you'll see a green piece, green symbol, piece of art. This is actually the logo for Kohanga Reo. So Emma made mention of that, and I guess my generation is very, very fortunate for those who fought before us to create opportunities for our indigeneity and our culture to be very strong in a lot of spaces. So Kohanga Reo is, I guess, like Emma mentioned, Māori daycare centres where they only speak in te reo. So all the kids that come through this space and all of the whānau or the families that connect themselves to these spaces, making the commitment to bring their kids up to learn the protocols and the language within each of these spaces. So from 0 to 5, you're in that space and you have the opportunity to move on to kura kaupapa. So the next box that you'll see there is the kura that I went to. This is how we come to meet Emma in the end, was through this kura. And so just recently we had a look and realized that it is now called an Indigenous Māori Education Centre. It didn't used to be called that before. But the concept of that was to continue what had happened in this Kohanga Reo movement here. So when they move on and they've learnt a bit of the language and they've made their way into a bit of reading and writing, they make their way into kura to continue to further that. And so I think in this space, I think there's a perception that some tamariki or kids who are coming from these spaces are going to struggle in other areas, when in fact we're within those kura spaces, we emphasize a lot of the te reo side, which is the Māori language side of things and the protocols and that, but we continue to learn things that are happening in mainstream schools as well. So there's opportunity for growth in both of those. And so when I went on to the tertiary level, I think a lot of people were sort of asking me, did I find it really hard to move into that space? Because it was my first real mainstream experience of learning, I think, was at the tertiary level. And it's what you make of it, isn't it? The same way that you handle life in this space. So for me, I utilized all the knowledge that I gained over those years, 18 years of schooling, and used te reo as my driver in each of those spaces. So moving into that space when we were doing facilitation around certain things, if we were doing stuff with little tamariki and I was more comfortable in my Māori worldview, I set that into my sessions so that people were able to learn a little bit about me, who I am, the culture that I am, at the same time, whilst they're learning different parts of physical activity, for example. From there, I was lucky enough to be standing in the graduation line and got a phone call about a job I forgot I applied for. And then realized that it was essentially one of my dream jobs. A job like this didn't exist before. So what it was to create the initiative that Emma was talking about, which has now been implemented into Kohanga and other spaces. So it was an opportunity for my 18 years of kura, of schooling, into the tertiary space, then coming out into a job where I was able to create something that would give back to all of the communities that, grew me in this space as well. And so that sort of led to my current role at Toi Tangata to deliver that nationally. So previously it was a regional sort of role. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that as we move on. And the last box there on the left you'll see is Kia ora hi tamaki makoto. So we're on the board for this particular group. And it's an NGO, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a sporting body that's specific to a traditional Māori sport. So the traditional Māori sport of kia orahi is now being implemented as a competitive code here in Aotearoa. And there's actually been a lot of places that have taken on this, and they've been delivering it in other places.
Globally. Yeah,
globally. So USA, Ireland, some other places. In fact, they had a World Cup one year, and guess who wasn't there? New Zealand.
It was one of those. It's one of those sports that we, or traditional Māori games that we lost through the colonisation process, and rediscovered when we went over to Italy, I think it was, or France. We were in that space in Europe anyway, and we were looking at not we, but our leaders in the kia orahi space went to Europe and discovered that one of our traditional Māori games was being played over there by more people than clearly they were back here. So it got brought back. We were able to revitalize some of the story and the storytelling and the narratives that sit beside it and within it. And now it's played in most of the even mainstream secondary schools and kura kaupapa throughout our country. So yeah, it's a growing trend, growing sport.
Yeah, and it's been a bit of growth in it for the last maybe 5 to 10 years as well. So yeah, we're lucky enough to be able to contribute to that as well.
Let me just jump out. We wanted to show you
give you a bit of a glimpse into what that particular program that I was sharing. So stop sharing.
Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Can you see this video? Yeah. Okay, great.
So you might have to do a bit of reading there.
Oh my gosh, hold up. Let me try that again. Okay.
Ko te whakapakaritina na me te whakakoi hine ngaro te hua nui ki ngā ko hunga hunga o te puna reo me te Kohanga Reo, ko puta ki te kaupapa He Pi Ka Rere. He kaupapa nā ngā rōpū o Toi Tangata me he oranga pautama.
Ko wai tēnei.
Koenei te hōtaka He Pi Ka Rere hei āwhina I te huna ko huna te whakapakari o rātou hine naro, ia rātou wairua hoki I raro I ngā whakaako rana tuku iho, a rātou mā.
kare tētahi tino hōtaka kua whakarite mō ngā tūmomo wahi pera ki ngā kohanga reo, ngā puna reo. Nā tērā I tino hehea mātou te whakarite he hōtaka Māori. Te tino mai kia matua, ka pupuhi te poro.
Ko Darrio Penetito-Hemara tētahi o nā mānai o he orana pautama me Toi Tangata I whakaroa ke e toru tau ki muri, kia hanaia I tētahi kaupapa pēnei hei arataki I tēnei reana.
Ko tō tātou tino whainga kia orite ngā mahi o roto He Pi Ka Rere ki ngā rā iara o ngā tamariki mokopuna.
Ko pakari ngā kaimahi hoki, nā te mea kua ako mātou ngā kaimahi ki te whakaako ai ngā tamariki mokopuna.
O tira ko pua wairua te Kohanga Reo tētahi o nā kura ko hunahuna toru te kau o tā maki makaurau. Ka whakaakonia ki nā mahi ārehia me tāne rore I raro I nā manako a te manatū haura, kia pua wai ai te māramatana o nā tamariki nei I mua I tā rātou wehe nātu I te punako. E iwa nā wāhana kaupapa ka whakaakonia kia rātou I a rā pera I te whakatipu kai, ko te wawata nui o He Pi Ka Rere, kia rono nui ai tōna paina ki te ao.
Tōku tino hehea, kia tae tēnei kaupapa te hāpai I a rātou ngā iwi take ki te whakapiki te oranga o rātou a te tamariki. Rua, tori,
Tāroi Black, te kaya.
So a couple of kids jumped the gun on that final call. But yeah, we sort of wanted to play that just to give you a bit of insight into what the He Pi Ka Rere initiative actually is. So for me, it was a combination of the two worldviews that I've sort of been grown up in. So He Pi Ka Rere in itself is a movement and nutrition initiative for that under 5 space. It currently is moving into the space that into the schooling space as well now. And what it is, it's drawing on our traditional narratives as the guide to movement and nutrition practices in each of those spaces. So when we think of the Mara, which is the garden or the food garden, herb gardens, etc., Rongo is actually the deity of that space for us. So there's an actual deity that is the controller of everything in that space. And with our traditional narratives, it provides an opportunity for us to make links to particular areas. And so Rongo is actually a part of the word rongoa as well, which is a term for medicine. So our traditional medicines and that are sourced from each of those spaces. So I guess with He Pi Ka Rere and many other initiatives, it's about showcasing that and getting tamariki, our little ones, and our whānau, which is our families, to sort of understand the different concepts and how they link to each of us when we think about it from a Māori context. So yeah, we kind of wanted to share a little bit about that before we moved on. So kia ora.
Ka pai. Oh, I'm going to move you guys to this side so I can see. So yeah, just in terms of my journey, my background, I'm South Auckland, born and bred, very, very proud to be a South Aucklander. Grew up in Manurewa or Rewa. You probably hear that in the news for all the bad reasons, but the side of it I want to share today is probably for all the good reasons. That I'm very proud of being from that space. So yeah, started at Lebank Primary School, went into both, that's a mainstream primary school, went into Manurewa Intermediate, again another mainstream intermediate, and then Manurewa High School, which I'll tell you a little bit later on, but we were able to go back into that space, both Darrio and I, and do some mahi in there as part of both of our jobs, which was cool. Yeah, in terms of growing up, I was a product of being a part of the Māori culture, the Māori cultural group, I guess. So I was always a part of Kapa Haka, had a massive love for netball, so followed the sort of sporting pathway alongside him. And in terms of my story, I fell pregnant at 17 years old, and so had our big girl at 18 years old. And so I had, I don't know what to say, but I probably lived up to some of the stereotypes that that were the product of Manurewa, I guess. And so I think at that point I decided that it was my opportunity to sort of stick it to the man a little bit and just prove them wrong. And I certainly didn't do that alone. I had a massive support system. My whānau are awesome, as is Darrios whānau, or our whānau together. And so my mum gave up her job at the time, which was teaching at Leeback Primary School, to look after my daughter while I continued to study. I went on to study at Unitec, a degree in sport management, before moving on to AUT and doing a postgraduate diploma in business, majoring in sport and rink management, and then going into a Master of Physical Education at Otago University. So for the first maybe 2 or 3 years, my mother looked after Brookie while I studied. So we had a bit of a conversation at that point. You can imagine at 18 years old, she wasn't the happiest of mothers. Neither was my father was the worst. But they agreed to support me through that time. And so, I went through my 3 years so well, in fact, that they Unitec decided to give me a job when I finished. And I started off as a tutor and then moved into a lecturing role at 23. With a class of 150 odd students, scared out of my undies, and just learnt a lot along the way. Moved my way through the system at Unitec to being a program leader, and then being associate head of centre for the Faculty of Social and Health Sciences. So was able to really see all the good, the bad, and the ugly of the academic space, to be honest. And meanwhile was looking at completing I started off with a postgrad diploma with the intention to do a master's at that point, and then just wasn't a goer. So I exited out with a postgrad dip, and then when I had a little bit more energy and
we grew a few beings first.
Yeah, we grew a few people, little people in the meantime, and then decided to go back and to finish off my master's. My master's degree was in and around, like Emma said, the contested terrain of the use of haka in sport, specifically what are Māori perspectives on the use of haka in sport, what are the benefits of using haka in sport, and what are the risks associated with using haka in sport. And so I think, everybody has a bit of an opinion about haka, so it wasn't too hard to get people's opinions on the topic, whether that be good, bad, or ugly as well. And some of the results I won't go into it in too much depth, but one of the main findings out of the research was definitely about knowing your own whakapapa, so the stuff that we started with at the beginning. So what is your own cultural identity? What does that look like? What do you know? What don't you know? And what journey are you on? What is the whakapapa of the haka that you're looking to do? So if it's kamate, for example, what do the kupu mean? What do the words mean? Where does it come from? Who composed it? And then the other part of the whakapapa line is actually knowing the whakapapa, or the genealogy, or the connection to where haka began. And that's through places like the whare tāpere, or the place we used to play and engage in leisure and sport. But also through the atua, or deity, tāne rore. And so my sort of checklist, I guess, if I'm going to haka or perform a haka, is, what part of my journey am I on in terms of my own whakapapa? Do I know the whakapapa of the particular haka that I'm doing? And do I know the whakapapa of haka in general? Where did it come from? Where did it derive from? Where did it originate? What's the genesis of it? And so that's sort of my tick box that I go through before I even engage in that space. And it's the one that I probably speak to the most when I'm talking to all sorts of different people who are just keen to show their pride for our country, people who are maybe a little less in the know with regards to their own journey and their cultural heritage, people who are athletes, who have been thrusted into doing haka but maybe don't know enough of the whakapapa themselves. So yeah, that's one of the findings anyway that I want to share with you. Then out of Unitec, actually, I moved on to Healthy Families. Healthy Families is a Ministry of Health social impact, social change initiative, which is focused on working with and alongside communities, in particular in South Auckland, on specific challenges, health challenges that the community are facing. So whether that be non-communicable diseases like your type 2 diabetes, obesity, to all sorts of different things, like being able to thrive as a whānau living in South Auckland. So some of the two portfolios that I led in that space were in and around the education space, clearly with my background in education, and then also the sport, the movement, the play portfolio was another one of my kaupapa. And then alongside Darrio, I sit on the Kia Ora Tāmaki Makaurau board, which is a regional sports organisation for Kia Ora in Auckland. So yeah, again, like Darrio, we were thinking if this works, just to show you a little bit about some of the mahi that we both did actually, work that we both did in Manurewa High School. Let's see if it works. Oh yeah. Wider school staff in particular, they were inspired by seeing students who they struggled to engage, flourishing up on stage when they were in their native tongue. It was really key to learn that if you marry mātauranga Māori, whakapapa Māori, and put that into a classroom environment, then you see a different student and you see them flourish in a different way. The flow-on effect from being able to kōrero and stand up and be proud is that not only are you physically well, taha tinana to be more holistically well, so taha wairua, taha whānau, oh, that one. I just got to move you guys again. Exit. That one. Cool. Do you want to?
So before we jump into that, I guess that was sort of another instance where we were able to sort of work together on some particular topics, and that one was, I guess, really close to Nikki's heart as well, being a product of that school, and being a success story from that school, and showcasing to those kids that you can be a success story in yourself. And so for, like she said in that video, when we actually did a lot of the work there, multiple teachers were blown away by this cohort of Māori students who we managed to get up and do a full presentation that was about maybe 25 to 30 minutes long to all of the staff and eventually the whole school.
And their parents.
Yeah, and their parents as well. When they couldn't even get them to stand up in class and do things.
They couldn't even get them to class.
Yeah. So for us, it was, an opportunity for them to realize that the way that they actually engage with those students is really, really important. So if they are more comfortable in a particular setting, then why not provide that type of setting for them? So it's I think it's not that initiative in particular, but a lot of places have learned that over time that the Māori way of living is like living in a community. So when our tupuna, our ancestors were here, everything was done all together. Everyone had particular parts to play. And so the concept of whānau doesn't necessarily mean just your family in terms of, the household that we have. Emma's our whānau as well. And so when we use that kupu or that word, it's greater than a word. And that's probably one of the things about the Māori language is there can be multiple variations of using the same word because it has so much significance. So you can use the same word and it could mean 5 different things. So, for us, and that sort of is how we've used the concept of kori. So the words that you see in front of you. So Emma sort of shared a little bit around that. And so it means to move, wriggle, or play. It personifies people who are active, vibrant, and energetic. Kori embodies movement into action. We like to collaborate with those willing to do things a little different and advance kaupapa of Belly to Māori. It also represents our movement, a space of influence or inspiration, one that values indigenous knowledge and prioritizes their needs and aspirations. So I guess in that, you get the idea that one word means a lot in Te Ao Māori.
If we broke it up, actually, it'd probably mean a whole lot more. So I think in terms of kori, though, I'd got into the point, certainly before Darrio, that I was just sick of working for someone else. Like I wanted mahi to begin to work around us in our whānau with it being growing, instead of us work mahi the other way around. Anyway, whatever the other way around is, we were just spending too much time in mahi and work, and not enough time with whānau where it really mattered and where we valued the being present the most. And so, you know, it was just time to sort of step away from that space. Hella scary. Like, so to stop working, and at this time I was 5 months pregnant, to stop working and just to sort of go out on our own was so scary. Not to have, I don't think ever in my life I haven't ever had a job. And even though like being self-employed is having a job, it just didn't feel like it was very secure or stable. And so, anyway, so finished mahi, and then probably about 2 weeks later, I got approached about 5 times from people from my previous job who had heard that I'd finished up and had heard that I was out sort of just self-employed and looking in the contracting space. Hadn't done it before ever, so didn't know what that looked like, especially the financial side of things. And so it was nice to know that people sort of valued what we have to offer. And so the first sort of mahi that we jumped into was with Sport NZ on a kaupapa called the Māori Play Framework.
That's Sport New Zealand.
Sorry, Sport New Zealand. And yeah, it was about collecting the voices of play. So Sport New Zealand has had a massive shift recently from, you know, focusing specifically on sport to actually prioritizing play and active recreation, which is massive. Like, it's massive for our national organization to, you know, just take the lion's share away from sport for a second and invest in the other two important spaces. And so the play unit, or the head of the play unit had approached me and said, look, I'm really wanting to understand what Māori play looks like for whānau Māori. And so I began, so I have a bit of a background in co-design. So I started using the co-design process to begin to gather insights about what Māori play looks like as unique and distinctly different to play in general. And so the sort of space the questions that I asked was, what did Māori play look like in the past? What does it look like now? And what do we aspire it to look like into the future? And some of the things I'll just share really briefly with you. Some of the things that we got back was around the main key settings where Māori play exists are in the taiao, which is the natural environment. So our maunga, our awa, no surprises there. When we start our mihi off with those things, that's we've got a massive connection to the natural environment. Secondly, in the Kohanga Reo or kura kaupapa spaces, but that didn't apply to everybody because the Kohanga Reo movement started in the 80s. So some people hadn't even had the opportunity to be a part of that. I certainly didn't, even though I'm an 80s kid. It was sort of something that you had to be pretty bold and brave to send your kids into that space and trust in the process. We sort of
went through as well in ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, me being a product of that space, I just always envisioned my kids would go there. And then Nikki coming from the other, the mainstream side of things was a little bit, well, why don't we send baby to somewhere where they can learn both English and Māori, which is a puna reo. So, and then, but you know, our baby wasn't learning enough for me anyway in terms of te reo and tikanga, so the protocols and our actual language. And so, you know, for Nikki, it was a big thing to put baby into that space. And, you know, from that, we've seen the babies really, really flourish. And so they take on particular roles within the house that some people were just amazed with. So
I come from a background of people who work in education. So to put our babies into a full immersion Māori schools right from the get-go when they're 2 or 1, 7 months, was a massive call for our whānau. And yeah, I'm happy to say I was wrong, and it was a great choice. But yeah, really scary. And so some of the other insights that came through were in and around Māori play in the past being better, more autonomous, less structured, and just awesome, like better. Māori play in the present was colonized, so nowhere do we actually see Māori represented in our playgrounds, for example, apart from maybe a tiki here and there. We don't, maybe some kupu Māori or some Māori words here and there, but otherwise they're really basic and like every other playground around the world. And so, yeah, there's just, and then Māori play into the future was very much about taking the best of both worlds, the past and the now, and then moving into the future with a better connection to the natural environment. So yeah, that was cool. We created a couple of personas, some based on our children. There's one of them in there. They're clearly the guinea pigs for our
her name's Kimiora, so she's called the Kimi pig.
Yeah, there's Kimiora, there's Jalen and Orion. They're all sort of our friends, our really good friends, whānau kids, and our own kids. So yeah, that was the Māori play framework. And then I think I've got one more, and then we're done. So you can like fire away. Oh, you want to talk about that? Oh
yeah. So just before the lockdown happened, so I think it was a little bit different in Australia. I'm not too sure, but when we went into lockdown here in New Zealand with the COVID stuff, there was, I guess, some growing interest into what whānau could be doing at home in terms of things wellbeing related. And so Te Karere, which is the Māori news network, came over and interviewed our whānau to showcase a little bit about what people could be doing in this space. So you caught a glimpse of it before, but this was like an in-house version of some of the stuff. So we thought we'd show that and then, continue on. So let's see if it will work for us. We're going pretty smoothly so far.
Yeah, not bad.
Kei te kori tunu te whānau Penetito-Hemara I te wā o te rāhui, he oe anō, he Māori te kawe. Hei tā te pūrongo a te rauhiringa Brown, kua tō ia mai ngā pūrata Māori, me te mātauranga Māori, hei huarahi ki te oranga.
Tūtaki mai ki te whānau Penetito-Hemara.
Moko moko mai Kimi.
E tō mai ana I ngā āhuatanga a ngā mātua tipuna, hei waka kawe haura.
Ka pai te. Tui tētahi momo kēmu, kia tae te tamariki, te neke pera ki te moko moko, engari ko te hua o tērā ki te whakahono ki ngā pūrākau, me ngā kōrero a tāne mahuta.
Ko Darrio te kaihanga o te kaupapa e kia nei ko He Pi Ka Rere, me ngā kāri e aro puana ki ngā kōrero tuku iho.
Ngā wahanga rereke o tēnei, ngā whakaaro mo te reo me ona tikanga, o tira te hononga ki ngā kaitiaki me ngā atua. Nā te rereketanga o ngā pūrākau me ki o ia tōpito Aotearoa ko te whainga matua me ki o tēnei kaupapa kia tīmata hia te whakaaro o te hononga pūrākau ki ngā momo nekehanga.
Nā whai anō e tino kitea ana te wairua hā kuakua o ngā tamariki.
Nā e sahi ke mu ka tiki koe tēnei momo rau, he raukura, ka whiua koe ki runga me ka mahi tēnei momo uira.
That's part of that revitalization and renaissance of our old ways of playing as Māori, and I think it's super cool that we get to do it in our whare.
Hau ngā rā I ngā mahi kori tinana, hei tā rātau ko te kai haura, te mea nui.
Kia puku mahi roto I te ao korikori. Te kori a hiningaro, te kori a wairua, te kori a tinana me ki. Ahakoa, kua whakakorengia te puta atu I tō whare, ka tae te whakahono ki papa tuanuku I tō putanga atu ki waho.
Hei tāna, me he mea kaore o tapu tapu, he tae ia tonu ana ngā whānau ki te whai wāhi atu ki enei mahi.
Kia whakaaro hia ngā whānau I ngā momorau me ka tae te whakamahi I roto I tō whare. Me he hū, he pepa, he peke rānei, ko era ngā momorau me ka tae te huri hia, hei momo kēmu I roto I enei mahi o He Pi Ka Rere me.
Eke ana te kōrero, tangata tū, tangata ora, te rauhiringa Brown, te karere.
So, we've got, I think a lot of the stuff that we've sort of been sharing is kind of just an insight into our worldview around surrounding a lot of the stuff that, in I guess, education, the decisions that we've made, why we've made them. It gives us an opportunity to think about how the growth of our language and the spaces and that influence these particular kaupapa or these topics as a really, really cool example of how indigenous knowledge can flourish in spaces. So for us, well, for me in particular, I think I'm really proud to be a product of kura kohanga and kura kaupapa. I do think there are some things that you do miss out on in terms of being in those particular spaces. But I guess the growth in that space is one of the things that's really, really changing within those spaces. So the mainstream space having high sporting performance places, for example, whereas the kura that I went to, the school that I went to, would have had maybe 150, 200 kids max. So to field a rugby team, you need to have people from year 9 through to year 13. So sort of just one example of how that can play a part as well. But
yeah, different to like 2,000 students that I had at my school. Yeah, they were all a whānau and we were just a little bit different. Anyway, I
think that's us. I'm not sure if there's any questions, that's all good. But
fire away. Over to you, Ems.
Does anyone have any questions, like in relation to anything that Darrio and Nikki have talked about, or anything with the Māori culture at all? If you have any, take yourself off mute. If not, I'll ask a few questions. No one does? Okay, cool. Just in terms of Australians or just people coming over to New Zealand, what kind of traditional things or like things for people to have a little bit of an understanding to, so when they do come over, they know what, like, say a hongi is, a porphyry. What are those kind of little protocols that Māoris do that can give my team a little bit more understanding?
I got a bit of a story to share. So I was working with a woman who, this is at Unitec, who came over from America, Ohio, and came to work at Unitec anyway. So in her first lesson, she pitched a question to the class and said, what do I need to know about New Zealand? And they came up with all of these answers. Anyway, she comes back to me at like lunchtime or after her class, and she was like, "Oh, Nikki, I did a terrible thing." And I was like, "What happened?" And she goes, "Oh, well, I went into class and I asked them what I should know about being in New Zealand." And they started talking about things like slapping their legs and pressing their noses, and all of these inappropriate things. And I was looking at her going, what do you know about Aotearoa and Māori culture? Because, like that, what they were saying was, if you pressing the noses is a little bit like a hongi, and a hongi represents the breath of life. And when someone does that, it's really special. It's about sharing, your tinana, a wairua, your spiritual well-being, your mental thoughts, whakaaro with the other person. And so it's totally not inappropriate in our country. It's like one of the forms of showing the most gratitude or appreciation for you and being in our sharing space with us. And then she was talking about, clearly the haka was the slapping thighs and all the rest of it, and I had a million things to say about that. But just a general basic understanding of some of the things Māori would be awesome, and just not being afraid to ask as well. Just not coming in feeling like you know everything, and just being humble enough to ask.
Yeah, and I think there are still people in New Zealand and Aotearoa who haven't been a part of some of those things as well. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but we're coming up into the Māori New Year, which is called Matariki here in Aotearoa. And so this was a big time of celebration for us, and when the harvest would be ready from all of the work that had been done. So it's still celebrated here at the moment. And yeah, a really big part of that, I guess, is a lot of the protocols. So probably the biggest thing that I'm thinking of, Emma, when you mentioned that, is the porphyry. which is our welcome, traditional welcome that happens. So they have different variations. There's a whakatau, which is a more informal version of it, but it does have quite a few particular protocols that you would need to know before you move into those spaces, because you know, people not feeling comfortable in a space is the last thing that you want. So yeah, if anyone was to come here to Aotearoa, we'd be happy to give you your 101s on on how to move in the Māori space, because it's a beautiful space to be in.
It doesn't always happen on the marae also.
Yeah.
Like I think there's a perception that a pōwhiri or our welcoming ceremonies only happen in our cultural spaces. Like what we started with today is about creating connection with you, and opening up the space to kōrero, whakawhaki kōrero, or speak and converse and discuss and share dialogue. And that's very much a part, that's central, it's core to our cultural ways of knowing, being and doing.
Can you just demonstrate what a hongi is, please?
Sure.
Well, I can take my glasses off,
Okay.
but you don't have to do that.
No.
That felt weird.
So it's the sharing of a breath, like Nikki said. So it is quite, you know, that's especially now one of the things that happened during this COVID stuff is that we've had to continually adapt, because you know, obviously the social distancing was a thing, and there were a lot of different things that were not the norm for us as Māori that we had to sort of absolutely take away. So the concept of a tangi, I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it's our form of funeral, I guess, and those can go for, you know, up to 4 or 5 days depending on where you're from, and you do often go back to the marae to pay your respects in each of those spaces. And when you come through, you hariru, so you do the hongi with everyone that is in the building, in the whare, so it could be 100, 150 people. And so during the lockdown period, some of our whānau throughout New Zealand were only able to have 10 people attend. And if the norm for us was to have, you know, 50 to 150 people at one time, and you have multiple cohorts of people coming through like that, you might, you know, be able to understand how difficult that might have been for some of our family to choose 10 people to farewell someone who's very, very special to them. So
it really smashed our protocols to pieces.
Absolutely.
Like we had to really look at adapting and evolving in order to survive, which is not uncommon to Māori. You know, we've always adapted and evolved. That's why we're still here, like everybody else. But in terms of adapting our protocols so much, like that really hit us hard. Not us in particular, because luckily we didn't necessarily lose anyone too close to us. But we know of whānau who did, and it was horrifying for them.
Yeah, and so some of them, they lived in Australia, and so if they even attempted to come back, they would quarantine for 2 weeks, so they wouldn't even been able to make it anyway. So there was a lot of mamai, or a lot of hurt that was going on during that time, and so, you know, we were quite fortunate to be at home. I continued to work throughout that whole time, but it was a lot of this stuff. So I was hosting webinars and things during that time as a part of my work as well. So yeah, really, really lucky to be able to do that. But out of that, when you would meet with someone, it's called a hui. And so the word that came from that, they became zui, because it was a Zoom hui. So, you know, the opportunity for us to sort of learn and adapt in each of these spaces. Māori are pretty sharp. They're really quick at thinking on their feet. And, I think that's a product of the greatness that got us to Aotearoa, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I just want to explain to everyone how our connection is. So Darrio went to Kura Kaupapa. So one of his best friends is actually my husband's cousin. And so when they say whānau, they really, my husband?
Yeah, your husband.
So when they say whānau, they do really mean that. And these two are so special to me that their daughter, Kimiora, was actually my bride, one of my flower girls for my wedding. But not only that, Darrio helped me write my vows, and he did half of my vows in Te Reo Māori. So I actually spoke fluent Māori through my vows and surprised Houston not so much Houston, but more for his family, because they are very emerged in the Māori culture. So I wanted to show respect that way, becoming a part of them and being part of their whānau. So these two are very special to me, and they are like brothers and sisters, brother and sister. So does anyone else have any questions before I ask the two main ones? Yes, very special, Christine. Any more? Okay, I have a question for both of you, so one each.
Okay.
Nikki, if you were granted queen tonight, what rule would you implement to go all around the world?
Holy moly. What I say to the kids? Honestly, this is going to sound a little bit lame-o, but I think, like, honestly, it's just value whānau. Like, I don't think anybody here would be able to say that they haven't been able to achieve what they've been able to achieve without the support of their whānau. So what valuing whānau looks like to me is certainly not just take. And I think that's where some of us go wrong. Like if I use my own journey, for example, with my mum, like sacrificing her own career to care for my child when I was too young to be able to provide for her myself. Like now, I feel like the roles have reversed. Like the amount of support that goes both ways is just enormous. Actually, right now with my Achilles tendon that has just been ruptured, actually it's back to the Brooklyn stage where mum's coming over and helping a lot more than she would never, she would normally. But yeah, I just think if I was to ever say something to my kids, and we've been trying to talk to Brooklyn about this and being grateful and appreciating her whānau and what they provide for her, and what she gains from that, but also what she can give to that. I think it would be something about that anyway. I don't know about being the queen though. Gosh, I don't know if I'd want that role.
It's just a ask. And Darrio, if you could have a billboard plastered on a big huge billboard for the whole world to see, what would you like to have it on there? Not a toy yet either.
Not a 2 year.
Not a 2 year.
Okay. No. I would think it would be something along the lines of people need to connect with indigenous to be the way forward. That, the indigenous have been on each of their lands for a long time and the way that it worked best. So probably something along those lines.
Yeah, that's so. I do agree there, especially with me. Used to have been a huge part of my journey, and I've always awhi'd me, look after me, and now you see me in my space stepping out. So, thank you. So, on behalf of our whole team, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on here and sharing your knowledge, sharing your passion, and sharing just your aroha, your love, and saying yes to me, because this means a lot to me. And I know it will mean a lot to our team, especially just understanding and educating and just getting a little bit more insight just to New Zealand as well, because we are very close with Juice Plus. We're not just Australia. It's also New Zealand, our company, and we have a charity called Nutrition Plus that looks after Indigenous and disadvantaged children in New Zealand and Australia. So from all of us, thank you so much, and have an amazing night.
Ngā mihi whānau. We see all your messages. Thank you so much.